Oh goodness, and just speak of the devil, right when Zachary was gonna go ahead and seek Bray out to tell him to keep his distance, Bray came into the kitchen and he's looking at the way that Bray is looking at Hana, and it's making him feel like, I don't know what's going on here, but I don't know that I like it. Hi everyone, it's Kechi, aka OBiGem. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, please do not forget to hit the subscribe button, also the notification bell to be notified of all future videos. And if you like what you see, please do hit the like button so I know to keep making content just like this. So we're back with another episode of Growing Up Genki. And the last episode we did end on a cliffhanger, so we're going to be picking up right where we left off in the last episode. So without further ado, we're going to just jump right back in. So Zachary looked around and he found that Bray was in fact home. His stepdad, Cal, was also home, but I mean, Cal and him are just kind of cordial. He doesn't normally have issues with his stepdad like that. It's really Bray that's of concern here. So he's like, "Hey Bray, how are you?" And he's like, "Why looking so glum, little brother?" And Zachary really hates when Bray calls him that because he doesn't really ever act brotherly towards him, so it just feels like a slight when he calls him little brother. And he's like, nothing much. How are things? Like, what are you up to? And he's like, I'm fine. It just seems a little bit weird that you came over here and you're having a pleasant conversation with me. Normally you just avoid me, which is true. Zachary does tend to avoid Bray. Bray typically he'll mostly make Zachary the butt of his jokes and just like a point of ridicule for him whenever he can. It's really kind of a contentious relationship, but Zachary normally does not go out of his way to seek Bray out for that reason. He doesn't like to be the butt of Bray's jokes, so he's like, so what's going on? Why are you seeking me out like this? So Zachary's like, well, I mean, I just wanted to give you the heads up. I have a friend over. We're going to be working on homework. So, I mean, if you wouldn't mind just kind of staying out of our way. And he's all like, sure. But, what's the big deal with that? Like, you don't normally have people over to do homework and it's a Friday night. So, I don't know why Bray's teary-eyed. Ignore that. But he's like, you don't normally have people over and it's Friday night, so people don't normally do homework on Friday night, so what's the deal? Is it really you doing homework with a friend, or is it a hot date? And Zachary's like, why would you say that? And Bray's like, oh, so it is a hot date. You've got a lady friend over. Let me get a look at it. And he's like, no, like, please, it's not like that. It really isn't like that. She's just a friend. We're just doing homework. Could you please just give us privacy to do our homework by ourselves? Please, I'll do whatever you want, give you anything that you want. Just give me an hour or two to do this homework with my friend without bugging us, and I promise to do whatever you want for a whole month. Just, please. And he's like, wow, that's a big ass there. This must be a big deal person. You must really like her. And he's all like, oh, please, like, it really isn't like that. I'm just like, please, like, whatever you want. Just don't ask any more questions. He's like, okay, little brother, okay, just give me some time to think through exactly what I want, and I will deliver that to you, and I'll stay out of your hair, I promise. He's like, oh, thanks, Bray, I really appreciate it. Just, I don't want this thing, whatever it is, to be weird. But thank you for agreeing to stay out of my hair for the next hour or two. I really appreciate it. He's like, oh, sure. Just, let me take some time to think about what I want, because it looks like you're going to be owing me big. So Bray doesn't yet know what he wants, but he, just from how Zachary is acting, he knows that this situation with this quote-unquote friend date, or Zachary's not calling it a day, this study session that he's having, he knows that whatever this is a big deal to Zachary. So he's like, this must be someone pretty special to Zachary for him to be so intent in making sure that I stay out of his way for this whole homework thing. So I'm gonna hover around and just take a look at who it is he's spending time with. And even though he's not admitting that he has any, like feelings for this person, the survey is saying that yes, he definitely must for this to be a thing. But, I'm gonna hang around and see about how I'm going to make this whole situation work in my favor, because that just happens to be the type of person that Bray Burns is. In the meantime, Zachary is going to head on back to Hana. He's super stoked that Bray has agreed to stay out of their hair during their study session, so he's hoping that during the hour or two free that he has, that he can get to know Hana more and, I don't know, maybe take their friendship to the next level. So Hana was feeling a little bit uncomfortable waiting for Zachary. It took him a little bit of a minute to get to the kitchen, but as soon as he got there, she's like, I'm gonna need to use the little girl's room. Is it okay if I use your bathroom real quick? And he's like, oh no, of course. It's just, down the hall. And she's like, okay, I'll go ahead and use the bathroom and then I'll be right back. She is feeling plenty nervous, which is so unusual. She's all like, this is like a weird feeling for me. I'm not really used to feeling this butterfly. So she's hoping that in the bathroom she can maybe splash some water on her face and kind of calm herself down, because her heart's pounding a little bit. So she's gonna go use the bathroom real quick. So without really knowing it, but really kind of knowing it because he's kind of been lurking around, Bray goes into the little guest bathroom in the hallway and he's like, oh, this must be the person that Zachary invited over to do homework. So he bumped into her. She's in the bathroom washing his hands. So he's all like, let me see if I could talk to her real quick and see what's going on. So Bray's all like, oh, hi, like, I didn't mean to barge in on you in the bathroom. I apologize. And she's like, oh no, I am sorry for intruding in on your home like this. I'm a friend of Zachary's. And he's all like, oh yeah, Zachary mentioned he brought a friend over to do homework today. And I was hoping to get the acquaintance of meeting you. And she's like, yeah, my name is Hana. He's all like, nice to meet you, Hana. My name is Bray. And she's like, nice to meet you as well, Bray. And he's all like, Hana, Zachary never mentioned how beautiful you are. And she's like, you are winding me up, stop. And he's like, no, really, we don't really see many girls that look like you around Windenburg. And she's all like, oh, well, I'm not actually from Windenburg. I go to Windenburg Global Academy, but I'm actually from Mount Komarebi. Do you know where that is? And he's like, I've heard of it, but, do all the girls in Mount Komarebi look as beautiful as you? And she's like, really, stop. I'm not. And he's like, you really are. Zachary doesn't really have a lot of friends as pretty as you. And don't mind, Zachary's mom came in here, so, I guess she heard her chatting and she wanted to just keep an eye on everything, since she did know that Zachary brought a guest over. So she's like, what's all that noise going on in there? And she's like, oh, I guess it's Bray over in here turning on the charm again. But, yeah, so Bray's like, oh, well, I go to Windenburg Global as well. Of course, I don't live on campus during the week like Zachary does. I don't know for the life of me why Zachary decided he wanted to board at Windenburg Global when we live so close by, but go figure, Zachary is a complete weirdo, but you probably already know that. So there you go, there's Bray doing what he always does, making Zachary the butt of his jokes, and, unfortunately, Zachary doesn't even know what's going on right now. And Hana's like, oh, I don't know. I don't really think Zachary is really all that weird. He is a little funny, but, not too weird. I don't think, anyway. And he's like, oh, I hope to not get the wrong idea, but are you and Zachary, could you maybe be dating? And Hana's like, oh no. We're not dating. We're just friends. And Bray's like, oh, well, good, because I was about to be real upset at the fact that you were taken. And of course, Zachary's mom is in here just trying to get to know Hana a little bit more too. And she's all like, honestly, Bray's right. You are a beautiful girl. And it's like, you guys are flattering me too much. But nice to meet you as well, Mrs. Chestnut. And she's like, oh no, Zachary's last name is Chestnut because that was my previous last name. I since remarried to Bray here's father. And my last name is Burns, just like Bray's. She's like, oh, well, nice to meet you as well, Mrs. Burns. And Bray's really like, yeah, but it really has been great getting to know you in this a little bit. I hope to see you a little bit more around here. And he's being a little bit flirty towards her, and Hana's kind of accepting the flirt because Hana really likes to have attention paid to her. It's part of her personality. Even though she's here to kind of get to know Zachary a little bit more, she appreciates the attention that Bray's been giving her. But she's like, I'm gonna go ahead and head back and start doing my homework. Bray looks like has taken a phone call and is like, oh yeah, sure. I'm just calling a school friend. But yes, go ahead and head on back to Zachary. It was nice meeting you. Hana made it back to the kitchen with Zachary, and he's all like, did you find the bathroom okay? And she's like, yeah, I did though run into your brother Bray in the hallway. And he's like, oh no, like, are you okay? And she's like, I'm fine. He was kind of nice and interesting. He's like, oh, I mean, was it in a bad way? And she's like, no, a good way. He paid me a lot of compliments. And he's like, oh, well, like what? And she's like, oh, he just said that I was really pretty and that, you know, a lot of girls in Windenburg don't look like me. And, you know, just really flattering me and whatnot. And just like, she's telling Zachary this in a sense to kind of gauge how he's going to react to it, because like I said, the whole point of this is that she's trying to get to know Zachary more and to find out like what it is she's feeling and if what they're feeling is the same. And funnily enough, Zachary's trying to kind of suss out the situation the same way, but you know, they both apparently do not think the other person likes them like that. So it's gonna be interesting to see how this plays out. She's like, yeah, you know, he just paid me a lot of compliments. He was a little bit flirty, and he really said that I was beautiful. And he's like, oh, of course he would say something like that. And Hana's like, what's that supposed to mean? Like, you don't think I'm pretty? Or like, you think that like he shouldn't have said that I was pretty? Or like, what's going on? And he's like, no, I'm not saying that you're not pretty. I mean, you're gorgeous. I mean that's not what I meant. What I meant was, and he's really flustered now, and she's like, I mean, just forget it. I just, you know, wanted to let you know that I ran into your brother in the hallway. He's like, yeah, you know, Bray can be, you know, he can be a lot sometimes. That's why I was worried. He's like, well, you don't have to be worried about that. He was really nice to me. He's like, well, that's good to hear. And Zachary's feeling a little bit, you know, I don't know, he's feeling a little bit weird about it, like Bray, in a sense, kind of made a move on her and made her feel special, and I was trying to make her feel that way, and now I think that she's not pretty, and my way of trying to cover up how I'm feeling, and it's a whole mess now. So, you know, Zachary's gonna be like, look, I'm gonna really go use the bathroom for a minute. There's been like a stomach bug going around in my save, so everybody's feeling a little bit queasy these days. So if you see them looking very uncomfortable in the corner, that is why. We're gonna ignore that just a little bit because it's not really going to be feeding into my storytelling right now. But I'm gonna have Zachary go ahead and find Bray here, because he just wants to kind of like reaffirm with Bray that, hey, you've promised me that you would stay out of the way, and I'm gonna need you to actually do that. So he's gonna go over and talk to Bray and say, hey, what's going on? Oh goodness, and just speak of the devil, right when Zachary was gonna go ahead and seek Bray out to tell him to keep his distance, Bray came into the kitchen and he's looking at the way that Bray is looking at Hana, and it's making him feel like, I don't know what's going on here, but I don't know that I like it. And from Bray's perspective, it looks like he's got a whole lot of Hana on his mind. It looks like he's a little bit smitten by her. He's all like, well, ooh la la. I don't know what my little brother is feeling about her, but I know how I'm feeling about her. So he's gonna go ahead and just be like, hey, Bray, can we go out on the porch for a minute and talk? So he's gonna go ahead and do that. But Hana can sense that Bray is feeling something, so we did get a viz notification that Hana is under the impression that another sim has their gaze directly upon her. With a glimmer in their eyes, it's plain to see that Bray has an intense interest in Hana. Hana tries to push things to a more intimate level. They may have a good chance at success. Is Hana going to accept Bray's advances? So I'm going to have her accept it, but she's only doing it because she wants to make Zachary jealous. If there's anything to be jealous by, because she's like, look, I'm here to kind of see what's going on between the two of us, and right now it seems as though he's not really interested. So maybe if I let someone who is apparently interested, shower me with affection, maybe that might turn things around with me. So she's gonna go ahead, accept his advances. Hana has accepted Bray's advances. He looks excited, anticipating the opportunity of experiencing a passionate moment with Hana. She can do whatever she wants with him next few hours. She's not gonna do anything, so y'all can slow your roll. Nothing wicked whimsies going on right now in this save, but she did accept the advances, so he's gonna be looking like ooh la la, tete-a-tete. But let's go ahead and have Zachary go out onto the porch with his dear brother. So Zachary's like, remember I told you to kind of stay out of their way while we're doing our studying? Well, you're kind of doing a poor job of that right now. I'm gonna need you to really keep your distance. And Bray's like, look, it's not on purpose. I ran into her when she was using the bathroom, and then I wanted a snack out of the kitchen. The kitchen is, a neutral area. Everyone's allowed in there. He's like, yeah, I know, but, you're kind of making things uncomfortable for everyone. And he's like, oh, am I? Because, Hana didn't really seem a lot uncomfortable when I was in there last. And Zachary's like, look, can you please? And Bray's like, okay, I will, but before you get back to your studying, I do know what I want you to give me in exchange for me to stay out of the way while y'all study. Zachary's like, oh, okay, what do you want? And he's like, well, I want you to set up a date between me and Hana. And he's like, huh? And he's like, yeah, you said I could have whatever I want, so ask her if she wants to go out with me. He's like, I don't know if that's a good idea. And he's like, well, you said you weren't dating her, right? That's still true, right? And he's like, no, I'm not dating her. He's like, well, then ask her, and I'll stay out of your way. So Zachary's feeling kind of like between a rock and a hard place right now. Look at Bray back there looking like he won the jackpot. But Zachary's feeling like between a rock and a hard place because now he's in the position where he has to pretty much set up his stepbrother and his romantic interest together in exchange for him asking him to stay out of their way today. And he's like, this just seems so unfair because the whole point of this was I wanted to get closer to her so we maybe could be more than friends, and now he wants me to set up the two of them, and if that happens then it's done. She's not going to really want to hang out with me. Everybody always likes Bray more than me. Soon as she dates him, she's not going to give me a second glance. So he's really upset and just bummed out now. He's like, I guess I blew it. Like that, there's that. So, oh, poor Zachary. He's so cute though. But he's really just kind of holding in a sigh and just like I guess I'm just gonna have to ask her, and then bye-bye to whatever I hoped would happen between the two of us. So they are back at the dinner table, and Hana is looking at him like, are you okay, Zachary? It seems like since they've been here, you've been kind of stepping out and having a bunch of side conversations with your family, and we really haven't been spending time together. And Zachary's like, oh no, I'm fine. Don't worry about it. And she's like, okay, I mean, if you say so. And he's like, yeah, honestly though, I've got something I need to ask you. And she's like, oh sure, what's going on? He's like, well, honestly, my brother asked me to ask you if you would be interested in going out with him sometime. And she's all like, seriously? Look at Bray just like hanging around and making sure that Zachary asked. And Zachary's like, yeah, he asked me if you might want to go out with him. He seems to be really interested in you and taken by you, so I promised him that I would ask. And she's all like, oh, well, I mean, you wouldn't mind if I went out on a date with him? And he's like, well, what do you mean? And she's like, oh, I mean, nothing. I just, I don't mind going out with him, if it's okay with you. He's like, I mean, no, of course not. I mean, he is my stepbrother after all. And he's like, oh, well. And she's all like, oh, well, I mean, if you're okay with it, then I guess I don't mind going out with him. Like, when? And he's all like, probably Saturday afternoon. Would that work for you? She's like, yeah, that should work for me. But Hana's feeling a little bit, like, weird about this whole thing. She's like, I came here to figure out my feelings towards Zachary and Zachary's feelings towards me, and it just seems like maybe he really isn't interested, because now he's setting me up with his stepbrother. So she agreed to go out on a date with Zachary's brother Bray, which we will see in the next episode. So we're gonna end things here. Oh, it's so sad seeing Hana looks so sad. This really turned out differently than I think both of them anticipated. But let me know in the comments down below, what are your feelings about Hana and Zachary? Do you think that the two of them will get anywhere? Or do you think that the two of them not feeling like the other person feels the same way is going to continue to get in their way? And what are your feelings about Bray? Do you ship Hana with Bray, or do you ship him with Zachary? I would be interested to see who's shipping Hana with Bray over Zachary, but hi, maybe they might have more in common. We'll see in the next episode, like I mentioned. But as always, guys, stay safe, stay healthy, and of course, stay dazzled. I will see you in the next one. Bye. Head for the door before I fuck